that head. Over here, look at me. Hit that kill switch.
Hey, Motorman here. Wow, what a way to start a class video. Now that Indian that you saw there, and by the way, I'm going to show you the entire clip, so don't worry about it. But that Indian rider, I'll explain to you exactly what happened there, and you'll see it again, so don't worry. But as you can see here through the very first exercise, he's, like most riders, trying to avoid dipping the motorcycle. And the whole point of the slow cone weave is to get the rider dipping so that he realizes that you could turn the bars almost from lock to lock. As long as you're above 5 miles an hour, nothing bad is going to happen to the motorcycle. You won't fall over as long as you're above 5 miles an hour. Perfect speed through here is between 8 to 10 miles an hour, depending on what kind of motorcycle you have. Here's another rider just doing his absolute best to keep that bike as straight up as possible. Winds up, of course, hitting the cones and steering through. Steering through those cones is much, much harder than dipping the bike through, because the dipping motion the bike makes, that's what the bike was designed to do. It doesn't want to stay straight up and have you turn the handlebars back and forth.
Swing it out. Swing it out.
Here it comes again. And it did okay in this exercise, starts to swing and sway, but he had a big tire kit put on the front of his motorcycle. That made the steering very heavy. I tried it myself, and I first couldn't figure out what it was, and then he said, yeah, I've got the big tire kit because it looks cool. In addition, he put on there these wide handlebars, almost like beach bars, which really stretches your arms out and doesn't give you any kind of leverage. So when you go to make modifications to your motorcycle, be careful what you do. Here, of course, is the drone shot. And this rider on the Indian, he was struggling because, mainly it's very hard to steer the bike with that big fat tire on the front. And those wide handlebars, they were hurting him as well. And since he's not familiar with the techniques, he's struggling more than he would have to if he just had a stock motorcycle. You think about this, engineers at any manufacturing company, they spend hundreds of hours trying to make the best motorcycle they can for the public. And then you go and take whatever they did. You put a big fat tire on the front, changing the entire dynamics of the bike and pretty much ruining what the engineers did. And for what? Because to some people it looks good. And plus it's very expensive to make modifications like that. I like to keep my bikes as close to absolute stock as possible. Maybe change the seat, maybe put handlebars on it that fit you better. Now this rider's on a Triumph, and he's got he got the hang of it the quickest, I would have to say, and that's not an easy bike to ride. It's got I think the 1700 parallel twin cruiser that they made for a few years, and it's got a 67-inch wheelbase, but he was whipping the bike around, you'll see later on, pretty easily. Now this rider wants to keep that bike straight up. He wants to look at everything he shouldn't hit, and of course when you do that,
turns ahead, tries to find it. Now she sees it. Now she passed it. All she got to do is look over her shoulder. Regular U-turn over here. Circle and a half over here. She's looking for it. She's not looking at the ground. She's looking for that cone. Now she just looks over her shoulder. Now she wishes you'd get out of her way.
Now here's the intersection where we add circles to two of the legs of the intersection. The Triumph rider, as I said, he's got it nailed. He's turning his head and eyes, he's leaning that bike, he's putting it right on the floorboards. He's got zero fear. And he doesn't even have any crash bars on the bike, so that's a lot of guts. Of course, by this point, all the riders improved. They still make mistakes, but they've improved a lot. This rider's actually picked up his speed a little bit. If he would just turn his head and eyes a little sooner, he should be looking back at that green cone. When he turns his head slowly, the circle gets gigantic. Then he wants to look at the cone on the opposite side and almost hits it every time. It's one of the hardest things for the rider to get over, is turning your head and eyes and looking only where you want to put that front tire. our Indian rider, he's carrying a little too much speed. That's why his turns are so wide. I believe right now he's not even using the rear brake, which he should be doing. So he's not using the rear brake. He is slipping the clutch. Still not quite enough throttle on it, but doesn't turn his head and eyes fast enough, and of course he doesn't make the turn.
Turn your head.
This is our rider who wants to try to keep that bike as straight up as possible.
Find that green cone.
Doesn't want to turn his head.
Where is it? It's not over there.
The head turn is very slow.
Look over your left shoulder.
The faster and further you turn your head and eyes, the tighter the turn you're going to make.
Put your foot on the brake.
Watch here again, too fast. And it's usually the opposite, but this rider, he's trying to use that speed as a crutch. And as I said, it's not the easiest bike to ride because of the modifications he's made to the motorcycle. And here's what you've been waiting for. Watch closely.
Snap that head. Over here, look at me.
Comes in, looks at the cone he doesn't want to hit. His front tire hits it. The bike comes around. The bank sensor doesn't go off. He tries to stop the bike by holding it back, and of course he can't. Eventually, he hits the kill switch and shuts the bike off. So, got to be careful on those Indians. That bank switch, 80-90% of the time, is not going off. So, what do you do when this happens? Well, of course, you get a little frustrated. But this bike has got crash guards front and rear. Nothing happens to the motorcycle. No damage at all. So, if you're a man, you pick the bike up, you get back on the bike, and you start all over again. It's not the end of the world when you drop your motorcycle. And he did the right thing. Sure, he was frustrated. Everybody gets frustrated when they're learning something new. But he got back on the bike. I'm proud of him. Did it again. Actually got better. Still made mistakes. Everybody does. And hopefully he'll come back to the class. And he'll be that much better when he comes back because he said he's going to practice before coming back. Well, I hope he does. And I hope you like these videos that I do from my class. I want to thank all the riders for allowing me to put their images up on there. Some people won't let you do that. If you got a big ego, you don't want people to see you making a mistake. We all make mistakes. Well, not me, but everybody else. So I hope you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Click that notification bell. And I'll see you probably in a couple of days.